Do you find yourself tired after a long day of trying to defeat your enemies? Does swinging a sword and axe around all day leave you too worn out to study fight film? Do you find yourself crashing and burning midway through a big tournament? If so, you should try Dubby. Dubby is a great way to energize yourself, whether it's at the gym, the office, or getting ready to step into the list. With a ton of great flavors to try. Use code Cincinnati Barba at checkout to save 10%. Do you find yourself tired after a long day of trying to defeat your enemies? Does swinging a sword and axe around all day leave you too worn out to study fight film? Do you find yourself crashing and burning midway through a big tournament? If so, you should try Dubby. Dubby is a great way to energize yourself, whether it's at the gym, the office, or getting ready to step into the list. With a ton of great flavors to try. Use code Cincinnati Barba at checkout to save 10%.
And we are live.
Woo.
Thanks everybody for tuning in to another episode of Axing Questions. We've got Shrek's secret lover Travis Young with us, Alex Dark Souls Ding, and the Trash Knight himself, Evan K. Ringo. What's going on?
Yeah. What's up?
So, episode 4 of this little show that we've decided to do. We're already doing a crossover episode with another another fighter with a stream.
Yeah.
Why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, man?
Okay. Hi. I'm Ringo. I've been fighting for a while. I'm on the AMCF board. I write some things about the sport. I do a stream about the sport. Yeah. If you know me, you know me, and if you don't, I don't know. You probably will if you stick around. I come up a lot.
Fair enough.
Plug you in there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to introduce myself. What is this, a dating profile? I don't know.
Right. I think we're gonna have to send out like a little like, hey, here's your pre-show questionnaire, kind of like write your little bio.
Yeah.
Trash Knight
I'm
Ringo
a Gemini.
already-
I like long walks on the beach. I don't actually like long walks on the beach. That's not true. I don't know why I said that. It's wrong.
Fans everywhere.
So when did you get into Booher, man?
So I started fighting in 2014, but like I basically found the sport right when it started in America. I broke up with a girlfriend in, I guess it would be 2012. And I like just needed something to do. And I was like, I remember the SCA from when I was a little kid. So I walked to an SCA event that happened to be happening and watched the fighting, went, oh, that's cool. Where's this happen? And talked to a dude, and he was like, oh, hey, we have a gym down in Nashville, which was like 30 minutes down the road. So I went and checked it out, and that was where Jay had set up. And so as soon as I started to like do rattan and that stuff, he was like, no, man, what you really need to be doing is getting into this Booher and stuff. So like my first helmet I bought was rated for both. And I tried to do some training for both, but like we hadn't really figured out how to do cross training. So I was kind of just there for 2 years trying to figure out a way into it. And I was like very broke at the time. So, and there were no cheap armor. No one was selling the used stuff yet. Ice was we hadn't found the Ukrainian pipeline. Yeah, it was basically ice or nothing. So yeah. And then I finally I took out a loan on my 401k when a dude put his kid up for sale, and I was like, I gotta get it. And then we started doing we did an open house where we're just gonna figure out how to do training without knowing what it is for guys who like aren't in armor, and we'll slowly try to gear them up. So I showed up for that when they started, and that was 2014, and been doing it since then. So, yeah.
Good stuff there, man. Like, one thing I've always kind of wondered is where did the Trash Knight moniker come from?
Yeah. So I don't know exactly what happened, but like 2016 or whatever, sometime around then, people have been calling me dirty and trashy because my armor was pretty garbage. My gambeson was falling apart. Everything was super rusty. And then I also am like just kind of a dirty person. We would go down to New York, and the place they fought at the time was in Harlem. And so I was a fucking hippie, and I walked barefoot everywhere. So I would be walking down Harlem streets barefoot. Everyone's like, "You're gonna get fucking needles in your fucking feet. It's fucking
Yikes.
gross. What are you doing?" Yeah. So just it started by calling me Skank Night because I was a skank, and I don't know when that turned into trash, but it did at one point. And I was like, rather than try to like be, you know, how dare you? I just lean into it, right? Like,
Just lean into it.
Right.
so
Best way to do it.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know why the echo's coming. I can try to get rid of it, but I don't know
Do you have
how to
your
do it.
do you have Twitch open?
No.
Hmm.
I just have this browser open.
That is weird. Maybe it's on my end. I probably messed something up.
You could try switching microphones. Is this better? Can you guys still hear me?
I
hear
still
you.
I still hear you twice again.
Okay. Well,
You're coming through once for me. Let me see. Talk for me real quick, man.
all right. And this isn't talking. I still get a little bit of an echo.
All right. Let's see if that fixed it.
Hello.
Sounds good.
It seems
Alex?
worse.
Sound off.
I was just
Travis,
talking about how
sound
like
off? Oh no, I just muted Travis. Okay.
Oh no.
Oh no, I can still hear Travis though.
I can't stop this.
I'm just playing with levels. I think somebody's just picking up off of somebody else. Sorry, chat. Always ironing out sound.
Ringo, you jinxed us. Like before
Yeah,
we went
no, I was
live,
like-
you were saying how professional we were.
Yeah, right. Just sit back and wait, man. All right.
Well, that first kit you picked up, you know how old it was?
that was, you know, one of the Gen 1 ice. So it was probably 2-3 years old at the time. But the dude who bought it hadn't really fought in it. So it was Joe Hardcore. If you know the hardcore scene out in Philly, he kind of runs everything out there. He bought it. He thought he was going to get into the sport. Didn't. And like normally when someone doesn't get into it like that, you think it's like, hey, you know, they just didn't want to like get hurt or whatever. But the dude, you know, ran fucking sharp for a while. So I don't think it was that. But yeah, he offloaded it for like 1,100, I think, at the time, which was like the cheapest I'd seen. But I still had to pick up Gambison and shit and weapons, but like that was still like a really good deal, especially for ice at the time, because like ice's stuff actually used to be kind of safe and good. Maybe not good, but it was safe. And so it was like pretty good, you know, pretty good economy gear. But he still sold it for like, you know, $6,000 or whatever.
Sheesh.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm throwing out a number. I've never bought
okay.
new from him, and like I know people have dropped, you know, upwards of $5,000 on ice stuff, but that might be including the helmet and all of that.
Gauntlets and
Yeah, like, but like
blowjob.
it's. I know it is very expensive, and it's not top quality.
Well, how long did you stick it out with that until you upgraded anything or, you know, optimized or moved on?
I mean, I think I parted it out slowly. Like, I think I changed the arms out that first year, but you know, Cat is a hustler. Cat Brooks from the Nice Hall, and so he was always like making moves, buying armor, selling armor, and so every time he would like get a piece that he thought would fit me, he'd be like, "Here, you put this on, give me your old stuff, and I'll go sell it." And I was like, "Works for me. I don't have to fucking do any work or pay any money."
Yeah.
So, but like, I was still wearing his thighs and knees, I think, into 2017, maybe. I don't remember exactly when, but for a while.
Well, no, there's something to it because I like to be a little bit of the scrounger at our gym too. I'm like, okay, this is fucked up in my gym. I'm gonna go see what I can find. Piece
I
things
mean,
together.
I have this belief that I've been echoing for a while that like your first kit should be shitty. Like it needs to basically fit you, but like what you really want is that it will it's just going to kind of move on you and not sit great and not in that way you get used to fighting in like this restrictive movement and you stop panicking when it happens and you just get you and like that way when your armor starts to fall off in a fight you're like, all right, I've been doing this, right? Because like even with like the perfectly fitted gear, armor failures happen and stop working great. So like I'm just of the belief that like if you start in that shitty situation, you'll be ready for it when it like actually hits the fan with your good fucking oh hey, they fixed it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's good. Just get the beater kit going, you know.
Yeah, and then like move out of it once you know how to fight. Because the other thing is right, a good kit it makes you 1 to 10% better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you suck, 1% of 0 is nothing, right? 10% of 0 is still nothing. So like it only starts to matter once you get enough skill that it's, you know, that you're like actually like making a decent improvement, you know, where you need to start cutting those little bits. So
right, and then
it's just
I've got
you
this
can start
running
understanding
theory
you like the. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, bud.
Oh no, I was just saying to kind of branch off on that, so you can like kind of understand your upgrades that you're going for. Like since I'm like in such a basic kit, or I'm so new into the sport, I wouldn't understand like why I'm upgrading into titanium or why I'm upgrading into something more articulated or not. I can feel you on that.
I mean, and you might be able to do like the research to know like theoretically how all that stuff works. You know, like I'm not one of those guys who reads that much about metallurgy and all that. I can't tell you the difference between 301 versus 304, blah blah blah. But like, yeah, once it really you start to know those things as you live it. And even then, like you really won't know it until you do the next thing, right? Like if you try TI and you find that it's too painful, it might not be that TI of that thickness is bad. It might be that the design is bad, right? Like you may have just got one where there isn't enough overlap in the plates, or you like are used to having more padding in your gambeson, and so now you have to put in that modern padding there, like a bunch of people are doing. Or your padding in your gambeson has worn down, and you think it's because you changed your brig, but actually it's the padding in your gambeson that's fucked, right? So like you really all of that happens. Yo, what up, Land? I finally think I know someone in the chat. So everyone has these fucking weird names.
Okay, this is our normal listeners, but hell yeah.
Hey, listen, I get to make fun of people because I got elected already. So, aha.
Got one up on everybody.
Real politician moments with Evan Ringo.
Yo, and I'm not running for re-election when my seat's up. This was a fucking terrible choice that I made. I'm done. I'm out. I'm gonna do my duty. I'm gonna serve my time, and then I'm out ski.
And so, then, okay.
I mean, that's a segue and a half. Let's talk about it.
Okay, let's talk about it. What do you want?
Let's talk about it. I objectively know very, very little on AMCF. I'm much heavier into H&B rule sets, Boohurt International, and Boohurt League.
Well, do you want the long drama-filled version, or do you just want to know what we're up to right now?
Oh man, both. One of those gets a lot of clicks.
All right, so I should have fucking. Oh, I have some whiskey. I did this thing a while back where I did drunk Ringo, Ringo's drunk history of steel fighting. So I'm gonna channel a little bit of that right now. Hold on. All right, so back in the 4 days, when the sport was real young and no one knew what the fuck we were doing at all, Do you guys know about the first split, right, between HMB and IMCF? Do I have to? How far back do I have to go?
I'm aware of both
In the
splits,
before time.
both the big splits at least.
Okay. You mean both of the local big splits?
Yeah, local big splits.
There were two. Okay, because there are two domestic splits and one international split.
And I'm aware of the international. These guys,
yeah. So
Travis and Alex may not be, as well as most of our audience.
Dude, I can't even.
All right, we're gonna go a real quick version of it. So when we first go over, everyone's there's like 29 dudes. They are all like 70 years old. They're all SEA fucking bigwigs who like think that their shit don't stink. And they go over there and having no clue what is gonna happen. And like the first like 3 fights go on, and like someone gets loaded onto an ambulance, the ambulance drives away. Someone gets loaded onto an ambulance, the ambulance drives away. Someone gets loaded onto the ambulance drives away. They're the 4th fight. There's no more ambulances, and they're like, we're gonna die. They end up getting their shit pushed in pretty hard, especially in the melees. They do all right in the duels because they were SEA dudes, so they all had good sword skills, but like they're all fucking like, I think the youngest dude was like 40. I don't know. Bam and Simon were on that. They might have been in their 30s back then. But like everyone in Russia was in their 20s, right? So all of the top level dudes were like, 20-year-old athletes. They fucking kick everyone's ass. Everyone thinks it's this great time. Everyone, super happy. They come back the next year, and the U.S. has actually been doing really, they've been training. They have new athletes. Craig is there. There was this other fucking monster athlete who I forget his name because he hasn't fought like since. But like we actually had like a fucking really good team, and we were winning a fucking round against the Russians, and there'd been a bunch of bullshit happening. Everyone talks about a bunch of the Russians changing rules and bullshit reffing, and yeah, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. That happens every year, regardless of how bad the reffing is. So, how true it was back then is up for debate. It did exist though, and specifically, what happened in this instance is Craig is beating up a dude, and he's almost got the guy down, and the head of the organization or something, I don't remember exactly his title, reaches in and holds the dude's belt. And holds the guy up so that he doesn't go down. And then like there are a bunch of cameras of this. There's like pictures of it, and they were like this. And afterwards, they kept talking like this didn't happen. They just didn't happen. But a bunch of marshals went around trying to collect people's cameras to like delete the evidence. But Yana like hid hers. Yana's Jay's wife hid hers, and then like came out and was like, "I have the photo that shows the guy holding the belt." And so that created this big fucking like huge blow up, and people who'd been tired of the Russians kicking everyone's ass in Europe for years and years were like, well, what do we do? And the Americans, who've had years and years of organizing and running events and stuff because they were SEA dudes, were like, we'll just make our own organization. And then all of the Europeans were all young kids, right? Like they'd all found it through, they didn't know what they were doing. They'd all just followed the Russian thing. And so they're like, cool, we'll go with you. And that's how we get the IMCF. They all branch off. They're like, fuck Russia.
Fuck them.
ACL. So when that started, Jay Brooks and Andre Sanu Ice and some other dude whose name I forget because he's been gone for a while. They ran the ACL, and the ACL was like written into the IMCF Constitution or something as like the representative for America going over. For the first year, everything's great. A bunch of drama happens. There's a split a year or two later. There's, a bunch of people are unhappy, and some guys get together and they're like, we're going to try to end around the ACL to try to, we're going to be the group that gets people into the IMCF. And they reached out to the IMCF and like, hey, the ACL isn't fair. They don't follow these rules, blah, blah, blah. You should go with us. And they might have been right too. I don't know. It's possible. At the time, I didn't really understand that the IMCF had like these really specific rules on how you have to pick your team. So I was like, you guys are just being a bunch of assholes. And then, oh, hey, Land calling out America cheats in the first IMCF. We probably cheated in every IMCF, Land. Let's be real. Ice, with Ice there, there's almost no way we did. So they try to end around ACL. IMCF says no. Again, it's like written into the Constitution or some shit. And AMCF basically then just kind of sits for like 4 or 5 years, not doing anything. Just, being like, we're going to be this group that like provides insurance for people in this place, this umbrella. But, everyone who wasn't ACL and IMCF had HMB USA, so they didn't need the insurance for AMCF. They didn't need an overall body. And so it kind of just doesn't, it's kind of just a useless organization for like 3 or 4 years. And then the split happens in America, and the big split. And this was the split where Jay and Andre had a little divorce, a messy divorce all online. They ended up suing each other. And so the ACL broke up and it became the ACS and the ACW. But in the course of that, the IMCF was basically like, you guys have been lying to us and misrepresenting what you've been doing. And also you're just kind of douchebags. So neither of you will ever be let back into representative positions. And so by default, the AMCF was the only group around at the time that could take over. And so that became the group that hosted the tournament to go to IMCF in 2020. It was a provisional thing. It wasn't clear that it would be that going forward, but they were there, and that was the carnage of unification. Ordo won. Iron Phoenix that kind of blew up and sort of became Dominus was there. Warlords were not good yet. They took 4th. And so that was sort of like AMCF sort of big day on the stage. And then COVID happens. Mm-hmm. So the AMCF basically only existed again to get people to go to the IMCF, which wasn't happening for 3 years in a row. So they hosted one tournament a year for 3 years. And that kind of, was all they did. And the tournament didn't even do anything, right? Because you win it, you get to go over, but you didn't get to go over. Cyrus ends up being appointed or elected president. I think it's appointed. I think the board votes for him. So it's kind of both appointed and elected. Now Cyrus is a post-split fighter. He has no trauma with Jay and Andre. He doesn't care about it. And like that was a big problem with the AMCF is it was made up of a bunch of these people who basically created it kind of out of spite because they didn't like Jay and Andre. And like maybe with good reason, but like it's still not like a great way to create the organization. It wasn't like really a growth organization. It didn't live up to what it promised. And a lot of that probably lies at Avalok's feet because he's also a Duke in the SCA. Hot take, if someone comes from the SCA and they have a title, don't let them have any power in your group. Just don't. Just be like, no, yeah. You can't be a captain. You can't recruit. You can't do shit. You can fight, but that's it. That's no one from and probably no one from foam either, but like I don't do that many high level foam games, so like I can't talk to that, but probably not. Like Brennan probably shouldn't be in power either, or Alexander Freeman probably shouldn't be in power either, but it is what it is. So anyway, Cyrus is post-split. He doesn't care about any of this stuff. And also he's a hustler. Like I know this dude is fucking on his shit. He wants to grow stuff. Immediately takes over gets some merch on the store, updates the website a bit, so yeah, that was that sort of started the sort of turnaround where the AMCF decided we were going to be more than just this thing. And when that happened, I ran for the board because I wanted to be part of that. I had a belief that the AMCF was positioned in a way that it could be a really useful organization, and just never did any of the stuff. Like, if you know anything about like the way sports are federated, there's usually a governing body that and then the leagues are separate, right? Like soccer, for example, has FIFA at the top, and then in America we have U.S. Soccer. And what U.S. Soccer mostly does is it puts a coaching staff together to make the men's and the women's national teams, and then it kind of oversees the leagues, but not really. Lets the leagues do whatever, and then it trains refs. It comes up with refs material, and like. That's its main, and that's one of the things that I really wanted the AMCF to do. So to step into this role and not be as much about events, and really like be about this sort of governing body of the sport, in America at least. So I ran kind of on that, but mostly on a troll campaign. Got elected, and then since then have done none of the things that I wanted to do. About marshaling, but did get a TENS event hopefully happening. And so that's sort of the short version of what the AMCF is and why I'm involved with it. And I know it's very long, but like there's a lot of drama and history in the sport.
Wow.
It's tied up in everything I've done.
It's super informative though. TENS, War in the North, right?
Yeah, War in the North is happening in August 12th in Minneapolis. I really hope we get enough people to come to that. Enough people have said they're coming, but we don't have enough registrations. So I'm freaking out a little bit because we got to pay for everything. So like, please, if you're coming, register, and don't just tell us that you're coming. We do need your money to pay for this.
Yeah.
We have to pay for the site. We have to pay for seating. We have to pay for food trucks. We have to pay for all of this other shit. So yeah. But so the whole point behind War in the North, though, was War in the North is an event that the MINAC group does, Minneapolis Armored Combat, and where they're trying to do a bigger Midwest event that's not just local to them, where they're trying to bring a bunch of teams from the Midwest together and kind of make sort of a Midwest carnage, which you guys actually kind of ended up pulling off 3 weeks ago. I don't know how time works.
About I think a month to the day actually with Siege.
Really, yeah.
So Siege. They kind of want to make like a little bit more Western northern version of Siege. I guess, but before Siege really blew up and had that thing. So, unless it was that big last year, but I don't think it was.
No, it wasn't. It was last year we did it at county fairgrounds, and it was like 3 teams, and like, we did it outdoors in November in Ohio. It was cold. They didn't bring out bleachers like we had paid for. They didn't open the bathroom until like noon.
Yikes.
Christ.
It was a disaster. I left that one and I was just like, we're not doing this again. We gotta put something good together, guys.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you learned and you did. So that's
I'm happy with how that one turned out. I'll just say that I was happy with how that went.
Yeah, I've only heard good things. It looked really good. It was so cold we had fires. God damn.
Yeah, we did. We had people like bringing fire pits from their house and setting them up.
That shit's wild. All right.
It was
that might beat the like super hot days in terms of worse weather.
Oh yeah, I'll take cold over hot every time.
No, I reversed that.
No way.
Oh man.
Because like it's pretty easy to cool back down as long as you have access to ice. It's really hard to warm back up even if you have access to fire. Like
layers.
It was snowing on top of it too, so
I'm out.
It was a disaster. Oh yeah, we 95-degree epic loot exhibition. We did
Yeah.
we did an exhibition at one of our sponsors, Epic Loot Games, up here in Dayton, and it was 95 degrees, and we were fighting on blacktop.
No.
That was
I'd rather
rough.
fight like in an Arctic pool of water.
Yeah.
Like
I firmly believe this should be a winter sport.
I could always do some jumping jacks or warm up a little bit.
Yeah.
I can only get so naked and so
I can only get so naked. So my problem is I sweat so much that like within 2 minutes my gambeson is just drenched. Like it's as bad as if I just poured water on it.
Mhm.
So like in cold, now it's just turning to ice on my body, and like I'm gonna get hypothermia, right? Like it's not a question of when, it's a question of if, it's a question of when. So like
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a certain point where like the numbness makes it you don't feel a hit.
Yeah, get some whiskey in you, and then
there it is. All right, whiskey, fire, fucking cold. Nothing will stop.
nothing will phase you anymore.
Yeah. So anyway, so War in the North is the thing that they've been trying to do. They did it, I think, the first year of COVID, maybe the year before, and then COVID made things hard. So they wanted to do it again this year. And I reached out to a bunch of people. I may have even reached out to you guys. I don't remember who.
Yeah, you
reached out to a bunch of
me.
like, yeah, I was reached out to a bunch of like up and coming groups, and being like, hey, could you host a TENS event? Because one of the things we really wanted to do with this TENS event is sort of showcase a group that's been doing the work but isn't as well known. Right. And the Wyverns met that. You guys also met that, but like they gave me like this whole fucking like he had a budget, he had like spreadsheets. It's just fucking it's like, all right, cool. You got your shit on lock. I know exactly how much I'm gonna make. Here's how much we make per person. It's like, all right, cool. So
Hell yeah.
Yeah. But we really wanted to like show off one of these groups. So that's why we went with the Riverins, and that's why we sort of partnered with them. And sort of the idea behind the TENS event is Cyrus sort of put this up. It was his brainchild of like, we never really get to do that many mass melee events, 10s, 16s, 21s, 30s, whatever, because they always happen at the end of other events and people are just exhausted. So he's like, what if we just do one that's just dedicated to that? And people have done versions of it. The Nights All used to do, and maybe still does, I don't know if it's on the calendar right now, but they did Blood and Steel, which was our attempt at that. But that was always a chapter match. So it was just 2 teams doing 10s. And some years we didn't get enough people to do 10s. So Cyrus wanted to do like a big thing with as many people, as many teams as we could get. So we reached out, and that's sort of just really the concept of it. It's like, Carnage did 12s this year, and it was 3 fights of teams slowly bleeding off groups. And originally there had been like 10 teams signed up for it. The ACW did, I think, 3 10v10 rounds at their nationals. The ACS, I don't think, did any at their last Reno. So like, we get them, but we don't really get them. And especially like if you haven't had a chance to go overseas, which most fighters haven't at this point, right? More than half the sport is under 3 years in, right? Has started since COVID. So they have never had a chance to go overseas to do any of that. And then even the people who have been fighting for that long, a lot of them haven't had the chance to go over and fight in that. And even of the people who have, they've gotten maybe 2 or 3 rounds, and that's it. So it's a chance really for people who haven't had a chance to go over and haven't had a chance to really see it, to really get dedicated mass melee time. And so yeah, we're going to do round robins of 10v10s, hopefully men's and women's. We've said, a bunch of women have said they're going to sign up, but again, no one has done the registration. So if you're a woman who's planning on coming, please register, because we need your money.
Is it individual registration or is it team registration?
So we we tried to come up with this system, and I don't think it worked out as elegantly as we wanted. But like, we wanted to give an option where teams could register as groups. And this came from, in my experience playing rec sports, the captain is always significantly more organized than the rest of the team. And that seems to be true in Boohurt as well. And so like what always happened there is the captain signed up and paid with like half of the money of the registration from the people who had it on hand, and then collected the money from the rest of the guys when the money came around. And that way didn't have to chase people down constantly to be like, hey, I need you to register. Hey, I need you to register. Deadline's coming up. And so it was like, all right, what if we created an option for that? So we thought we'd come up with one that was it was going to be 8-man squads, because that's what we thought everyone registers for Boohurt International and Boohurt League with your 8-man team. Mm-hmm. And you know, but it turns out most clubs are bigger than 8 men and or they don't quite have 8. So like, we needed to be a little bit more flexible in how we did our grouping, but that's sort of how it is now. You can register for 8 people at a time. And the team sizes are 20 men per team. And for women, we went down to 15 again, because they aren't going to get as many fights unless way more women show up than we think. And we wanted to create more teams. But the point of having 20 instead of 15 is we're doing best of 5 instead of best of 3 so that we can get more rounds in. Yeah. Without having to have more teams and have a more complicated bracketing system, right? Like, we're just doing 6 teams, 1 round robin. It's very simple to run because it's our first time doing it. We wanted to keep it mostly simple. And so best of 5 instead of best of 3, so that, you know, you're getting a minimum of 15 rounds and could have up to 30 rounds. Which is like, you know, 15 rounds is what like the teams that did well at Carnage or the teams that do well at a tournament get. I think at Carnage, the teams actually did get 30 because they did a round robin followed by a round robin, which is not normally how it goes. This is normally round robin followed by brackets. But like one of the problems that, you know, I've had, I came up doing chapter matches all the time. And in case people don't know what a chapter match is, it's a fight between 2 teams. The original way we did it was every round is 1 point. It can be a singles round or a melee round, and first to 11 points wins. And now there's a new updated version, which is 4 quarters. Each quarter starts with 3 rounds of singles, each worth a point. And then you have 15 minutes, I believe, to get as many points as possible in melees per quarter. And then whichever team has the most points at the end wins. And so in the first version, you could be done in 11 rounds, but usually it'd be like 15 or so. And sometimes it'd be 20, 30 rounds in a night. And like with the new versions, it's, especially if you're doing singles, you're doing, you know, every fighter is minimum doing 10 rounds. And usually you're doing 20, you know, closer to that, 15 maybe. And so I would go to tournaments and we would win, right? We'd go all the way through and I'd be like, I barely fought, you know?
Yeah.
Why did I pay $200 to fly across the country to get less fighting than I get at home? Mm-hmm. So I really didn't want to set this tournament to be like this. I wanted to give people a lot of fighting. So we figured doing, you know, best of 5 instead of best of 3 would do that. But then we also, in order to make sure that people don't get too burnt out, in case we have to have room for injuries and catastrophic armor failures, we increased the max number of people per team to 20. So, because normally on 10s, you can only have 15, which makes sense when you're only doing, you know, 3 fights in a round robin followed by 3 fights in a bracket over a 4-day tournament, which is really what 10s were designed for, right? That's how the IMCF looks at it. But when you're doing, you know, 15 rounds in an afternoon, you probably want more subs.
Oh,
so
yeah.
With that, how are you organizing the teams? Like, are people allowed to choose who they're pairing up with on those 20s, or are you doing a lottery system?
So we're trying to let teams pick their own groups as they can. We did say we didn't want to have any super teams, But because it's happening the same weekend as balls, we are not really that worried about it because most of the really good fighters will be at balls. So we're not worried about Dominus coming in and then pairing with like the other warlords and then like the executioners and then being like, we're just going to run train on everyone. That was the other thing is we wanted to be a little bit more of a mix, you know, instead of having the usual suspects win, like let's see what happens. So we aren't worried about that as much. So we're letting people pick their teams. But we also are, if you want, you can register as an individual. And if you're a merc, we'll find a team for you. We'll slot you in up to 160 fighters, right? I think.
Nice.
Right. I don't remember what the number is, but whatever the max number for that number of teams, 120 fighters. I'm sorry. You know, up to 120 fighters. Once we have that, we're going to stop and we won't be able to fit you in because, you know, we just don't want to fuck around with that. If we do it in the future, we'll probably find a way to do it. But like for now, but yeah, if you register and you don't have a team, we'll get you in. And especially if you tell us who you know and who you fight with, we'll try to get you with those guys. But we also want to let people that know each other fight together, right? So that like, you know, if Quinez wants to fight with you guys, right? Because you just went up to their event and like you guys have a good rapport. You guys might be like, yeah, we want to fight together. Perfect. We love it. We want that to happen more than us sitting here being like, you know, you over there, because we want people to have fun and fight with the people they know and like, because that's half of the things, right? People like fighting with their clubs and their friends. So
you fight a little bit better when you give a shit about the guy next to you.
Yeah, but we also, you know, most teams can't field 10 fighters, you know, consistently, let alone bring, you know, a 20-man line. So
I was hoping to. When I saw it was 10s, I was just like, man, we got the numbers. We could do it, but it's tapping too much with travel. We pick up at that point. So we've got with most of our fighters being rookies, a large movement to Rookie Rumble is happening.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then the next month starts Ohio Ren, which just gets crazy. I'll be there though. I'll be fighting with New Order.
Yeah. Not to shame any of your fighters. But I'm going to be doing Valhalla, and then I'm going to be doing Penzik, and then I'm going to be going from Penzik to War in the North. So like, if anyone wants to style on me and be like, look how like badass I am, you have to do at least that. So, and if they don't, if anyone from your group, I'm just saying I did 2 week long events and then another event. So like, I don't.
How is Valhalla? I've wanted to go up to that one. Haven't made it up.
The first Valhalla was pretty cool. I didn't go to the second. The first Valhalla was, you know, it was really nice in that it gave this sort of thing that we didn't have at a lot of events, especially since the ACL fell apart. Where it was very social, very party, get to hang out. But then we also had a somewhat decent amount of fighting. There was not as much fighting as I would have liked, and there wasn't much structured fighting. What was really good that year, though, is Brett was there, Brennan was there, and Craig was there. So like I got to go out and just do rounds with a bunch of dudes, right? Like who I don't generally get to do rounds with, and like in armor rounds too, right? Like normally if I go to winter camp or whatever, we're gonna try to put just our soft kit on because we want to get as many reps in as we can, right? We're short on time. But because, you know, it was a week, I think that was only like a weekend with like 1 or 2 days at the end, but it was a longer event. So we had more time and it was all day. It was like, fuck it, you know, let's just do pickups. And that's a huge thing in the SCA and in boffer culture where you'll just go to events and you just go fight dudes. And that's the thing that we're really missing in this culture because of how our events are structured. You don't really see after a tournament that many people being like, hey, what if we do like a longsword match, just you and me? Or like, hey, you fucking threw me really good in that round. Could you show me that throw and then let's do a pro fight about it, you know, or just like even one round of a pro fight. So yeah, that was you know, a thing that was really cool about it. The next year I heard there was a lot less of that.
Gotcha.
But I wasn't there. I was in South America. So and then but this year, especially with they have a new site with Rookie Rumble being there. The plan is to get more back to that, to have these structured event, but then also have a lot of space for like, you know, if you're a new fighter, come up to like me and be like, hey, I really want to learn throwing onside offside in polearm because like very few people do that. Can you work with me then? I'm like, sure. Or like maybe you go up to a dude, if you're like a rookie, you go up to like a dude like Xander who's been doing it 2 or 3 years, and you're like, hey, you know, the guys who kick my ass all the time locally, they all know all my stuff. So like, can I fight you one-on-one for a little bit? Because you don't know me yet. And they might be like, oh, cool. I have this Uchimata that like he'll never see, and then you'll get to do really well against people that are like a step better than you, but like didn't teach you literally everything you know. So just constantly smoke your ass. So like that's a really cool thing that I hope will be there. That's what I'm looking forward to doing while I'm there. So like definitely catch me out on the field. I'll be doing pickups whenever it's available. And then yeah, also it's a dope social hangout party event, which mostly fell apart. You know, every ACL event I went to, we had these, you know, so at the end they got a little too wild. But like the first ones were just like, you know, they were good parties and they were a little wild and a little not, and everyone was hanging out, and it was almost the whole group versus like at Carnage, you know, people were over here, people were over there. It was really hard to get everyone together. When I went to the Detroit event right after, the same sort of thing happened. That's why here happens at Reno. So like, it sort of seems like that culture kind of died of like everyone getting together and everyone kind of partying together. So Valhalla, I hope is a return to that. Come to the Ohio Ren Fair. I'm hoping to come to the Ohio Ren Fair, but like
you gotta.
I don't know when. You have like 1,000 dates, so it should be able to happen. But
every weekend from September to from Labor Day weekend to Halloween. So like, just pick a weekend, come out. You can camp there. It's a good time. Lots of beer and mead will be drank. It's like the third biggest Ren Fair in the country.
That's dope.
And then they just built us our whole a whole site just for us.
That's awesome. That's
so
sick.
Come on out, have fun, hit each other with some sword-like objects.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm about. So I hope to. We'll see. I meant to spend a lot more of this year traveling, and then like every month I seem to get a really expensive car problem. So it's
right,
been
your car knows whenever you have money, right?
Yeah, basically. So yeah, I haven't got nearly as much travel as I'd hoped, and I have, like I said, I have Valhalla, Pensic, War in the North, and then whatever it's called, Dragon Con, and then Reno, and then I want to do the Mexico event. So.
Oh, that Mexico event looks fun.
Yeah, so I've heard it's not the Day of the Dead tourney that a lot of people talked a lot of great shit about, but it looks like it's the same people. So, you know, everything I've heard is the Day of the Dead tourney was really good. So I'm thinking this will be the same thing. It looks like it'll be off the chain. So do people still say that? I don't know.
Off the chain.
I say that, but
nice.
You know, I'm damn near geriatric.
Nice, good.
So, getting a little bit more into, we've been online for like an hour and we haven't even talked about the main reason I wanted to have you on.
Oh yeah, sorry, I ramble.
Yeah, it's been good talks. Good talks. Growing the sport in the United States.
Yeah,
I think everybody has opinions.
They do. I am one of those people with opinions.
Right. I feel like everybody, as soon as you've organized more than one thing, you're just like, okay, we need to get everybody on the same page just to make everybody's life easier and get this to grow.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
what's your opinions? What is your biggest hot take on what needs to be done to?
My biggest hot take is that we need to go back to the ACL regional model. And it will never happen, and everyone hates me about it. And so for the people who don't know, because the ACL has been dead for a while, what used to happen is the ACL broke up the country into conferences, and then in those conferences there were regions, and you had a regional commander, and then under the regional commander there were a bunch of chapters, and there were chapter leaders. And then when we got together for major tournaments, that region sent an all-star team of the region to the tournaments, and then also chapters could come, right? Like you could bring as many people as you want, but like there was a regional team. And everyone hates this because everyone wants to fight with their club and they think regions look dumb. And then also when the ACL run it, they ran it really shittily. The regional commanders didn't have much power or responsibility. They were kind of just there to like, now I won't say just there to be scapegoats, but they were not utilized correctly. Like the real value they provide is that we don't have good visibility at the top looking down in, right? Like I don't know most of your guys, right? I'm a guy who tries to be very active in following the sport. And admittedly, I kind of fell off around COVID. But like I've been trying to get back now, and like I don't know so many new people. And even Brett, who like I think watches more tape than anyone else, it's like, yeah, I don't know this guy. And so trying to sort of having the regional people that's a way of like being like, hey, this new guy's coming up and they're amazing, and you really need to take a look at them and give them a chance to get on the team. As well as it's a way of, if we want to support coming down, there's a point of contact and there's a point of contact going up, right? Like if people want to reach the board right now for the AMCF, for example, they could talk to any board member, or they could talk to Cyrus, or they could maybe go to Scott, who's the treasurer. Like there's no like one person, and that's for everyone in the country, right? Like I don't want to answer, the same question 1,000 times. I want to answer it maybe 5 times for the 5 regions and let those guys answer it 20 times to their guys. And so it was, I think if done well, that's a great system. It works for most, works for all of like high school sports coming up. It works for rec league sports. It works at this sort of amateur level that we're at. And like eventually, we would want to get to a point where the regional commanders step back from it. But like for now, I think that would be the way to go. I also think that like we shouldn't be picking our national teams as the first club that wins just gets it, because I think that creates not a sense of unity within the whole country, right? So if we have instead, if we have this regional system and everyone on the region fights, and then we still have like a little bit of division, like the Northeast, and Cali go at it, and then the Plains and Midwest go at it, and we have rivalries and whatever. But like when it comes time to picking teams, we just kind of go, all right, who are the best people and how well do they work together? And you build the team, and that way, at no point do you really feel like we all feel like Team USA, as opposed to feeling like Team USA this year was the Executioners, and Team USA at like I didn't even feel like Boo League World Cup was Team USA. Now, admittedly, I didn't go, so maybe that's just on me. But like, it really seemed like it was a bunch of teams that happened to be from America went to a tournament, as opposed to a Team America team. And the ACL was pretty good at creating that through this regional system. And I don't know, I want that back. I think that would do a lot to get rid of some of the drama. I think it would do a lot to allow for knowledge exchange beyond just these the events the training events that we have, where it's kind of on you to get out there. It would allow pushing information down as well as pushing information back up. I don't know. I believe in hierarchies. I think they work. So that's my hot take.
Honestly, I agree with you on a lot of points there. One of the big ones for me is when it comes to like regional teams. A regional team drawn of the best fighters in a region is going to beat local club teams 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm very cognizant of as well, of trying to put people into events and stuff like that, is like, yeah, Cincinnati, we've got a bunch of fighters, but like we're not going to beat Dominus.
Right.
We're not going to beat Kenyaz. We're not going to beat these teams that are made up of the best fighters out of an entire region. The best way to compete especially for smaller local clubs, is to team up with all the other smaller local clubs within an area.
Right.
Pick the best dudes and send them. Yeah,
and I mean, one of the ways that this is getting handled in the MCU sphere is like Carnage and the Buhurt International in general. Carnage is running a gold tier and a silver tier, I think is what they're called. And so like that's a nice way of doing it. And did you guys do that too? Were you guys? Someone did that. Arnold.
Arnold.
However, it was not advertised that silver tier didn't receive any ranking points whatsoever.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So there's a lot of feelings on that one, bud.
Yeah. Whoops. Sorry to
fight for nothing.
Some teams that were in silver bracket that flew across or drove across the country didn't even get ranked.
Yeah. So that's kind of bullshit. I could see maybe like having a different ranking system for it, but like you should get ranks. Yikes. I mean, here's another hot take. That's why I hate the Buhurt League system. Buhurt League as an organization, when it ran, and Buhurt International appears to be doing the same thing, amazingly well-run organization for the most part, right? Like there are problems. There's problems with every organization, but like for a Buhurt organization, their shit was on point. Their rules were simple, easy to read. You could find everything in it. They put up the information on what was happening in the league all the time. You could track a lot of it. They had like, here's what you have to do to be at this level. Here's what you have to do to host an event at this level.
Yep.
Overall, money. But like the actual design of the league, I think is crazy. Like it's based on like a fucking NASCAR tournament or like golf. Like that's not our sport. Our sport is not, it's a team sport. We fight as teams. Why are we like, you have to go to this many tournaments and like where you play, it's some weird ass fucking formula. It's not easy to follow. It's not easy to have favorite teams. It's just, it means that if you want to watch, events, you have to watch 6 hours of an event. The way to do a league, if you want to do a league, is to do fucking matches, right? That's how every other league with teams works across the entire world. So I don't know. And like, I'm not saying it has to be the chapter match system that we designed. Come up with whatever the fuck else thing you want, but like it should be matches. So that's my other hot take. The Buhurt league design is garbage. Garbage that's implemented very well though. Their implementation is fucking on point. I can't argue with that.
It feels so organized.
I mean, compared to everything else I've done, and I know a lot of that is on Larry and a bunch of his guys. So props to them for like really pushing the level of professionalism in the sport. But,
oh, absolutely. The amount of work that they're putting in is insane, and like I'm very thankful for it because it's making my super fun nerdy hobby even better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like for the longest time I was anti HMB everything, and then basically Boo Hurt League convinced me not to be because of how well run it was. Where I was like, I don't like your rules, I don't like your league system, but this shit fucking works. All right, I'm in. No one else put together a coherent system. All right, cool, let's go.
So
yeah.
I think there's.
Oh, go ahead, Travis.
There's something to be said for their effort to work on marshaling and getting that organized too.
Yeah, man.
There's a resource there to learn things and learn how to help organize the sport and make it grow.
Yeah,
right.
That's not something we can get many places.
Speaking of, though, the AMCF is trying to push that. The IMCF brought in certification this year. They're trying to get their shit together on that. And the AMCF, we are doing martial certifications at War in the North. So if you want to get certified for IMCF and get trained, we're finally getting our shit together too. So like 3-4 years later, but like we're getting there. Come on.
It's all more opportunities to fight, right?
Yeah. I mean, unless you're fighting with groups that tell you can't, then it's not.
Yeah.
God, that's another one of my hot takes about growing the sport is like,
yeah,
some people are just gatekeepy as fuck, dude.
Go off, son.
like the amount of shit I have heard it's wild. Like, you can't fight with this team because you fought with another team before, which that should be a gigantic red flag. Like, oh, you can't train with us because you trained with somebody else. Ugh. Like, you can't fight in this league because this guy that's on this board made me upset once because he said something mean on Facebook. Like,
it was probably me. I was probably the guy.
Like, it's insane for a niche hobby athletic sport in a ultra niche category. Like,
the drama is so strong because the stakes are so low. People are like, this is what they cling to. It's all they fucking have. So they're like I have to like
protect it.
Yeah, like fucking let it go, man. Just like be chill, be fucking, and like part of that is I also SCA fucking bullshit and like boffer bullshit. Those people are fucking nerds. Nerd athletes are the most dramatic humans in the world. I've decided. Because we were all kind of, I don't know if it's still true, but like when I was growing up, it was still the tail end of nerds not being cool. So we were all fucking bullied in school and we didn't have friends and all of that shit. We didn't learn to socialize. But like some of us, like we had a little bit with the jocks if we were into it then, but like we would either hide our nerd hobbies or just be that weird jock off on the side. Some people managed to make it work, but this is, most of us.
Closeted nerds.
Yeah, like you were like, no, I don't play Magic, and then you go fucking,
after football practice.
Right, yeah.
That's the hacky sack.
But then, you get out into like the world, and like we grow up, but then we start doing this type shit where we get to be the cool dudes. We get to be like the big and like
jockey nerds.
And especially like if you start to get like good at it. People blow so much smoke up your ass. And then like you just it's your first time like really having to deal with like being cool and like having like power over people and like they don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's just fucking, I don't know. Jock nerds, the worst people in the world. I hate all of us. Especially in this sport, any jock nerd who, remembers the split, they're assholes. That's another person you shouldn't put in charge of anything.
I like to chalk it up that like, when you see the drama and especially just how people are moving around, it's like people are living out, like that fucking Game of Thrones fantasy. They're like, oh, I'm in the court now and I'm going to outmaneuver them and get them. And it's just funny.
You don't even know how many times I've literally heard dudes talk about doing that in this sport. Like about the like, oh, we're maneuvering this person into this position. I'm like, what? Why? Why are we?
I'm just over here trying to put my armor together. Like,
just
what the fuck is happening?
We're adults. We can just have conversations with each other.
You don't have to RP.
It's wild.
It's funny.
It's wild. But yeah, there's the drama in this sport is and like, but it's true in SEA, it's true in HEMA, it's true in Boffer, it's true in every sort of nerd group I've run into, and it's probably true in all sports, right? Like if you follow BJJ right now, fucking Gordon Ryan and New Wave and B Team are going at each other every day on Instagram, and it's hilarious watching these professional athletes have like fucking 17-year-old fucking Twitter beef, basically. Yeah, it's like but it's, you know, so the drama happens everywhere. But I do feel like it is worse in this sport than like on a sort of per capita basis. It's getting better as more of the SCA people age out, because it was a very toxic community where like if you were good, you literally got a title and were lauded, and people took that seriously in and out of game. People would give you real life favors because of your fake SCA title.
Right.
So
motivation.
Which is why it's not really a LARP, because, you know,
it's not a LARP, it's really doing it.
Yeah, it's not a LARP because like that king has real power and like you actually like fucking kneel to him in your fucking jeans.
Or you get a boot on your car when you got to leave the event.
Yeah, it's fucking dumb. It's fucking dumb. But
jeez.
Anyway, yeah. So growing the sport. So yeah, 1, get rid of everyone from the SCA. 2,
mass
2,
exodus.
Yeah, 2, regional commanders. 3, I don't know how else you ban drama, but like ban people banning people. You can't
ban the banners.
Yeah, you can't say you can't play with us because you played with someone else. Like,
oh yeah,
shit's
it's nuts. This is America.
Yeah. It's fucking so stupid.
But so another topic with that is, how do we grow it not just for fighters but for spectators? And I have very strong feelings on this, so I'd like to hear your opinion.
My opinions are wrong, apparently. I thought it was all online. I thought it was streaming. Now it's do it Mickey's way. Mickey solved it.
Shit, yeah.
So like, so realistically though, right? So what he's doing with Nashville is fucking. They have a consistent 600 person crowd locally, but like everyone I know who's done consistent local events gets a core group of people who will come. Did I lose you? No.
Nope.
Y'all just froze on my screen. But we're back. All right. So everyone who like the Knights Hall has been doing events consistently 7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were doing events the whole time, but like at either 6 or 7 years ago, we started doing like events almost every month, and often 2 or 3 a month. And so we've gotten to the point where like we have fans that we know personally because of how often they come. And like, you know, we have super fans. We have like, one of my good friends, I got a job at my old work just because he kept coming to the fucking events all the time and hung with us and drank afterwards. So like doing consistent events locally will get you a crowd, will build your local audience. That's it. Like, that's all you have to do. They don't have to be good events. You don't have to have a good announcer. We often don't. Like when I ref, I'm supposed to be the MC. I don't talk to the audience. Fuck that. I'm there to ref. Like, so like, but just do it. It's a cool enough sport that even if you're just doing duels and you do it consistently enough, you'll get people. But if you can start adding in pro fights, if you can start adding in melees, even better. If you can start making it look kind of professional, have like a real crowd, even better. If you want to get to like 600 a night of ticketed, yeah, you probably have to do whatever fucking Mickey's doing. But like, regardless, if you just do consistent events once a month, you'll build a fan base, right? If you do it once a quarter, but definitely once a month. And that's a thing that a lot of people don't want to do. They only want to go to Ren fairs and places where other people have built stuff, and work, and do like big events, that do like the Arnolds. And like, that doesn't get you your fans. Those people will see you once, and maybe some dude in the crowd will want to fight, especially if you like have a like try armor on or whatever. You'll recruit some fighters there, but none of them know where to find you afterwards unless your messaging is amazing, unless you're handing out flyers to every single person there, unless you have QR codes on like fighters' helmets that people can fucking, like,
yeah.
How to find you afterwards is so important. And like, unless if you're a marketer, you probably know how to figure that out, but I'm not. I don't know any of that shit. I never worked as a street team for a fucking punk band in the 90s. Like that's the shit that you need if you want to turn these one-off events into retention. But if you just do events and you just, pay for a Facebook ad, but even without it, people will find it. But if you just put up the event, Facebook ad, $100 once a month, boom, you're going to get fans. Now, I don't think that's a way for growing the sport to like get like a true fan base, like an audience. I think the way to do it is we get everyone on a semi-consistent recording or streaming schedule where the semi-consistent format, and then every single thing that comes up gets placed in a it can live on your personal YouTube, it can live wherever, but somewhere else has reference links to it that everyone can find. And that place also should have a discussion thing, like whether it's a Discord, whether it's a Facebook page, whether it's a forum, a place where fans can interact with each other, where they can also go to watch every fucking video that comes out. And every video needs to be similar enough that they can find the stuff. Ideally, they'll be broken up either if it's on YouTube, you can do the chapters. So you can be like, you click here, but if you, whether it's got timestamps, whether you actually take it and edit it and cut out all of the breaks, whatever the hell that is, like that's what needs to happen. Boohurt League had all this. Yeah. But Boohurt League had all their streaming going to their page, but like it also didn't, right? Like where it was, you couldn't find it necessarily on Facebook. You couldn't necessarily find it on their YouTube until like months later. And like it was hidden amongst 16 other videos of different stuff. Boohurt League, if they'd had 2 YouTube channels, Boohurt League events, Boohurt League fucking promos, that could have been a good one, but like it was not navigable. And that's the real problem. It's like this place needs to be navigable. It needs to be easy to find stuff. It needs to be clear what everything is, and it needs to be a place where fans can interact with each other. Because like that's where it really grows, right? The community grows when people talk, right? Like, I hate watching sports. I don't like it. I don't even like watching our sport. But if I go down to the pub and watch fucking golf with a dude who's really into it, I think it's the most boring sport in the world. But I'll talk shit, sit there and drink a beer and chat with the dude about Tiger's cool, forward shot. I don't know anything about golf. That was a terrible example. But like tennis is a good example. I don't know much about tennis, but my dad loves it. And when I go home, sometimes he'll have, the US Open on or I don't know what they're actually called. And he'll talk to me about the difference between the courts and how good this person is. And like, I'll engage in those conversations because it's another human and and I like it. And like, that's what makes a community grow. It's those interactions. People love talking about the shit, what the shit that people always laugh about. And, when we say, who's the best 5 teams or whatever, it gets repeated on Facebook and everyone's like, oh, not this topic again. But like, no, really that topic again, because talking about that type of shit is what grows the community. Fucking Superman versus Batman. It's the dumbest conversation, but every nerd actually has an opinion and wants to share it.
Yep. And
that's the thing. Like we need to, and it needs to be tied to, it doesn't need to be, but ideally it should be tied to a central location of videos. I used to be really into this, into rap battling, where like dudes would like get together and not like you see in like movies or whatever, in case you guys, don't follow this like normal humans. But like they would just show up in parking lots and no beat, a cappella, say prepared rhymes that they'd come up with to each other. Like it's literally reciting man poems is the joke that it became. Because that's what it was. But like that blew up to the point where people were getting paid 20, 30 grand an appearance because they had a central forum where every video got posted. And then also a couple of pages where we could go if you liked one particular league. Right. And so like, that's the problem also with it being Booherd International. Booherd International will not have any of the IMCF stuff. And there are people who prefer IMCF. So like, it needs to be agnostic. That point about, you know, more fights being open. It needs to be that too. It needs to be willing to have everything.
Cohesion it's necessary.
Yeah.
You know, not anyone who's run an event or trying to do a stream understands like this shit's harder than it looks. You can't just hit stream and then everything works. Like it takes time and effort. And there's people, no one here, we don't have, you know, broadcast teams working on this shit.
Yeah. You can just do that, but you are correct that it does not work. as a person who has sat there and just hit record, it does not work. It looks terrible.
And I mean, it's all just, I think a lot of us need to work together more to get this shit going. You know, we all try to do our own thing and learn our little bits, but we don't have much of a cohesive community to work on that.
And the resources out there, so like when we've put a lot of work into getting our stream set up and stuff like that, but like trying to figure out what actually to do has been a nightmare. Because you can Google like set up a stream and then it's just like, yeah, here's how you play Call of Duty on Twitch, and it's just like, no, we're trying to set up a broadcast, and now we're talking with broadcast engineers, and like people are throwing names out and terms out that I'm just like, what the fuck, on forums dating back to like 2008, and we're trying to piece this all together with cameras from different angles and hope and pray that it works.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the problem is like a lot of us are fucking amateurs and we're trying to fucking put it together on our own. And like in my experience, you just have to fucking try it and try new things. But like, yeah, probably researching is better. That's probably a better idea. A thing that if you have time and you're socially capable, in case anyone's like looking for advice, most towns and cities either have a local channel where anyone who's a citizen, who's like, you know, a member of the community can go use their equipment if you ask them and tell them. And there's also usually high school kids and college kids who love filming who need interns stuff. And so like, if you're willing to go keep knocking on doors and talking to those people, you can get free labor for people who like know way more. Like the Knights Hall had a decent stream for our events for a little while. And it was because Sloan, who no longer is associated with the Knights Hall, and I don't know if she even goes by Sloan anymore. I think she goes by Alex now. So she had a friend that she kept bringing by who was trying to become a streamer, right? Like trying to make it. And he watched the dumb shit I was doing on YouTube and was like, hey, do you want me to like clean this up for you? And we're like, yeah, fucking do it. And so like he brought his equipment in. He had a fucking stream deck, was building us fucking like custom graphics, he had the whole thing with like the animations, which like all the shit you guys seem to have. That like I haven't figured out. But like, because he was a kid who did that anyway, right? Like you can find these resources and they'll generally be willing to do it for you because like they like that part of it. And so you just got to find one who's either, you know, wants more experience or is nerdy enough to think we're cool. And there should be a bunch of those. So like if you're willing to like go knock on doors and talk to people, they should be there. I can't guarantee this is successful because I don't have the time or the social spoons to go do that. And I also don't run a school or an event site. So it's not like I don't actually get anything out of it. So I've never bothered to do the work.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But like that's there and it is an option, right? Carnage broadcast works the way it does because I forget his name. Greg something is a professional newscaster, and he brought a bunch of his equipment and talked to the dudes and went, here's how you do this. You know, like those people are out there. It's so like, doing the research is probably better than my just plan it, but like also just fuck around and find out works.
Oh yeah,
right? Like
that's where we've been.
I mean, you guys are fucking around and doing research. I just fucked around, so you're a step better. And I am saying like there is if you like can get those broadcasters, that's a step above that too, right? Like some people and like that's but like minimum quality is that you get a camera that isn't shit. It doesn't have to be good. It just has to not be shit.
Mm-hmm.
You have okay enough lighting and an angle, at least one angle that shows all of the fighting. If extra angles are great, but like one angle that shows all of the fighting that you can afterwards give, put together so that everyone can see stuff on, because like, the IMCF stream where they cut to like show really cool small fights, we missed the whole fight. So like, it's cool if you can cut back out afterwards and show what happened, but for the most part, something that shows the whole field, decent camera, decent lighting, and anyone talking. People will bitch about no matter who the announcer is. They'll be like, they're too crass, they're too boring, they don't know enough about the sport. All they talk about is the sport. Doesn't matter. Have an announcer. Would it be great if we had fucking JR and fucking I forget Big Jim from WWE? Yeah, that would be amazing. But we're not going to. So like anybody is good. Ideally, better if they're a fighter and knows what they're talking about, but it's fine if they don't. It's better if they have like a stage presence, but it's fine if they don't. It's better if they don't make terrible offensive jokes, but it's fine if they do, right? Like have something. That's so yeah. That's my hot take on streaming. Everyone should do it no matter what. Have your mom fucking announce it. Get a decent camera, one angle. That's all you need.
Mother's Day tournament.
And then now we just need to solve it all being on one platform, and I don't know how to fucking do that.
Yeah, that one's tough. I feel like if a league is sponsoring an event, right? And this comes down to money, time, and staff. If a league is sponsoring an event, they should bring a stream crew out and have an official stream. We are probably 5 to 10 years away from that even being a slight possibility.
Yeah. But like on that note, we could maybe be like, here's minimum equipment. Here's our minimum equipment list that we expect you to do. MCU already says they'll give events. They'll give money to teams that are registered that want to run events. I don't know the details on it, but and AMCF wants to. We're just broke. But like, if we get to the point where we're not broke, yeah, hey, here, buy these things. Here's some money for it. If you already have those things, here's some money anyway. Make your shit better. Here's the streaming platform you put it to. Here's what we need for a recording so that we can put up a recording afterwards, right? Because that's the other problem is people don't save the raw, which fucking makes me so mad. Because like, if you're cutting angles, please give me all of the other angles. And if you're not, and you have issues with your Wi-Fi, which over a 3 to 6 hour event, you're almost guaranteed to have, unless you have, not Wi-Fi, unless you're running a hard line there and you have really good internet.
Yep.
It's so like that's what gets saved. This fucking bullshit, stuttering lag. So save the raw, please. And yeah, we could send that to whatever leagues, and then they could fucking put it up on their shit. And instead, Boohurt League had minimum, like you just had to do it to like a certain level, but they didn't support you doing it. But we theoretically could get to the point of just supporting the basics, right? Of here's $100 for your camera. Here's $15 for software, though everything's basically free. I don't know why you would need that.
If we want like a cohesive, like unified, like professional outlook, right? Release an asset pack. Just pay a graphic designer or have somebody do it and just make on-brand asset packs of like top cards and announcement graphics and all of that.
I
And
mean,
then just
especially
have that.
yeah, especially if it like, hey, here's a really easy way if you don't know how to fucking work Twitch and design stuff of like putting up the rosters, right? Like here's just get the rosters and the associated flag number. Here's the asset. You just type in the names, it'll pop up. And then you can also look at that as you're fucking doing the announcing and maybe learn who the fighters are.
Yep.
That's not a pet peeve of mine at all.
Also, random. That's somewhat related, but decent hot take for getting the layperson more involved in the sport is informative YouTube videos, right? Of like, this is a helmet, this is a brig. In the world of AI voiceovers being like $1, and like just I'm working on some of that right now. It's like I don't want to do narration, I don't want to do voiceover work.
Oh, really?
I can just type a script up and then have AI go over and just read it. Do that with fight clips.
Can you have Obama do all of the explanation?
Yeah.
Yes.
I also want for when you're doing the fight clips, I want Arnold Schwarzenegger, but specifically Conan Arnold Schwarzenegger giving us the highlight takes.
That would also be good. That would also I'm down for deep faking some good Boohurt voiceovers.
Or Danny DeVito selling us some.
Danny DeVito just doing all of it. Like Danny DeVito fight commentary. Like
my life goal was to have him out to an event. I don't care whose event, where it is. Get Danny.
I think that's great. And like shouts out to guys like Grant and Simon to a lesser extent, because he just he does get a lot of eyes on the sport, but mostly, by throwing up videos and hoping that it works. But like Grant actually does work on his stuff.
Grant's TikTok and all of his reels and stuff, they're great. He does good work.
Yeah, and Ashley, when she was doing it, I don't know if she's still doing TikTok. I'm off TikTok. But like her and Alex, they were both fucking blowing up on TikTok, getting a bunch of people, and like all those people, shouts out to them for doing that work of informing the fans and getting eyes on the sport.
Oh yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they brought that up about like how it's not it's not good. All of my stuff is geared towards fighters, and like there's nothing about the fans. I'm like, yeah, exactly, because like I don't want to, right? Like I don't want to be the guy. I don't want to be the face of the sport. I'm a terrible ambassador. I don't even like talking to new fighters, right? Like new fighters will come up to me and be like, "Oh, hi," and I'm like, "Right, I need to not be an asshole. Hi, how's it going?" Back in the day, this buddy who started fighting with me, Lane, his line was like, it basically, I forget what the exact line was, but essentially, like, if you hadn't fought yet, you weren't a human to him. So, like, he would just cold shoulder everyone until their first event, and then like after that, though, he was like, "Cool, welcome to the Brotherhood, buddy." But like, and like, it's hilarious and like, but also toxic as fuck.
Yeah.
But like that's just who I am as a person. I'm a grumpy New Englander. I don't like people. I don't like new people. So like I don't want to be that guy. But it's great that there are people out there doing that, explaining and like doing the basics. But yeah, we don't have enough targeted to fans, because like Boris has startfighting.info, which is a great resource if you're a new fighter. But what if you're just a new fan? And like what we also don't do is, this is the thing that the SCA and Boffer do really well that we don't, is people who come in and then don't want to fight for whatever reason. Maybe they're too old, maybe they're too injured, maybe they just don't like the level of violence. Maybe they like it just watching. They like thought it was a thing they wanted to do and realized, no, I don't. I just like watching it.
Yes.
We don't create a good space for those people in our community, right? Like,
right. bring them in as squires and support staff and
treat them like part of the community, right?
Yes,
like
absolutely, man, absolutely.
Thank them for their stuff constantly. Always be thanking your marshals. And like at those events, when we do like big party events, those guys party with them, talk to them. Again, I'm not going to do it because I'm terrible at talking to anybody. But like, this is a thing that we as a group need to do, and fans too, right? Like I said, I have a buddy now who I only because he stuck around after events and drank beers with us, which is also a great way to build fan relationships. Is like, don't kick people out. Don't like invite them to stay. Just don't kick them out and see who sticks around for like another hour as you guys are undressing, and then drink beers with them for like a half hour or whatever. And like those will become your super fans, and they might become your refs, and they might become your squires, they might become your whatever. But even if they just stay super fans, if we want to get to the point where this sport pays at least for our armor and our travel,
yeah,
we need those people.
Oh yeah.
Which like, I don't think I think most people need to realize that that's not a thing they're going to get. That like some fighters might get to the point where most of their travel gets paid for, but most of us won't. Most of us, we're going to be pay for play. And I do think we need to understand that fundamentally, but like we can get to the point where more events are getting partially paid for, and like
right.
where we are paying for armor at least. So like we should like try to embrace that as much as possible. And I could be wrong. Mickey's basically saying that his stuff does, like, his guys kind of, they get their travel, if they're local, they get their travel paid for, and if they fight enough, their armor paid for it in like a couple months. So maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe we actually can get everyone to that level. But
it sounds like everything just comes back to Mickey, man. You want to like if you want to be a duelist, train like Mickey. You want to be a melee fighter, train like Mickey. If you want to be profitable in the sport, run a business like Mickey. He's just like the Uber of Booher. Like
in a lot of ways, yeah. I don't know about training like Mickey. So where he's had 3 heart attacks or whatever, 3 heart surgeries. And
dude,
I know
tough,
that it's
man.
not. Yeah, no, he is. But like I know that's not from training, but like it does make me think that like he might have a body that can be pushed to a level most of us can't, and like is pushing his body to that level. So maybe
genetics are crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know if train like Mickey's the right solution. If you can do it, it is an effective solution. But like, I don't know that everyone can. I can't. Almost straight up. I can't match that dude. But like, I don't think Brett trains as hard as Mickey, and I bet Brett's a better fighter. I mean, he's obviously going to be better in a one-on-one, but like with the size, disparity, it doesn't matter, right? If you're talking, who's the better for their weight class, I don't know. I still think it's Brett, but who knows?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
pound for pound.
Pound for pound. I think Brett Pound is still the best fighter pound for pound at the moment. Just, I think he is on another level than everyone else in terms of overall skill. And like one of the things is we don't get to see his blade skill nearly enough because he doesn't do enough pro fights and he doesn't do any duels. But it's there, right? Like, and Craig's might be, but like, I don't think Craig is at that same blade skill level. But again, it's hard to tell because he doesn't do enough pro fights or duels for us to tell.
Right.
So when you add, but what?
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, when you add it all together, Brett, I think, is just the total package at every level, and just, he was the first to really get judo to that level, and he does it different than most people, right? He does it in that baiting way, and if he wants to, he can power through. But like, most people don't have that bait ability that he does. And like in the same way, he also has. He used to be, when he first started, he was a runner. He got most of his kills through checks and being a crazy dude. So like he could, if he needs to, he can be McCabe. He just
Right.
doesn't because what McCabe does is a little bit more risky, and Brett wants those like as little risk as possible. So like I don't know. I don't think there's another fighter who has the total package, including Daniel Craig, including Craig. I could be wrong though. Craig also is pretty good on the run. Mickey is really good on the run. His judo's fucking amazing. So he's also in the conversation. I don't know. When it comes down to pound for pound, for me, it's Brett.
I think that's fair. Yeah, Alex, is that your cat?
You guys hear that?
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm gonna mute for a second then.
What a break in.
Oh, jeez. No, I think that's a good takeaway. I think Brett, from the little that I have interacted with Brett, but have watched a lot of him, he is probably the most tactically sound fighter that I have seen in the list.
Yeah. 100%. 100% agree on that. Have you guys had him up to do anything, any teaching at your school?
We haven't. We
went down to him.
Yeah, we were at winter camp this year.
Okay. Yeah.
But like that's something that we're working on in the future is getting more people to come up and do seminars up with us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
so we kind of exploded from so the club itself was started in 2019 by Jacob Bowman, and then kind of wrote it from there, and right around we're hovering between 7 to 15 people in our gym at a time was like our total like roster, and then we grew from that number to about 20-ish prior to going into Ohio Ren Fair last year. And then we just recruited like crazy. We recruited more than we should have at Ohio at Ohio Ren Fair. And we had that like come on in, everybody put on armor, and we had anybody that had a kit there. We were just doing groups of people coming in. I was putting them through death by PowerPoint and then sending them off to get into armor, and they were getting into armor, and then we were just it was an assembly line of new fighter break-ins. And I don't know if he's watching, but Kyle Gutzweiler is an absolute hero. I think over the course of the weekend, he did 40 of those 52 fights. And love breaking new guys in. Just an absolute maniac. And then we had the vast majority of those 52 people stick with us. So it's only like now that we're at a point where it's just like, okay, what do we need to do to start producing good fighters? Because objectively, all of our like trainer and leaders are not good fighters. Sorry, Travis. Sorry, sorry, myself and Mike and Jared and everything like that. Like we're very good at getting our asses kicked and like looking good while we do that.
Hey, but that's half the battle, man. That's half the fucking battle.
Right, like we can take the hits, and we can stand in one place, but for the most part, we're not winning, and we are doing so much like introspective work constantly on what we need to do to win, and not just drive 8 hours to get our shit pushed in.
Well, so what's your 3 to 5 month plan?
3 months.
What are your SMART goals? Your specific, measurable.
Oh, there you go.
I honestly right now. So when we look at it, even from our leadership and training perspective, I've been in this I'm going on 4 years. The rest of our leadership team, the next closest is going on 2 years. So. And I'd say probably 80% of our fighters have been in the sport for under 7 months.
Right.
So it is a very interesting point. So I'd say right now our 3 to 5 months is conditioning and getting people used to actually fighting.
Yeah. All right, that's huge. That's a huge one right there.
From there, I mean, like learning the different tactical structures, learning 2-1-2, 5 across, when things are used, and building the cohesion, right?
All right.
So that's our big ones. Then from there, focusing down into the small skills, the actual the throws, um, uh, the striking, all of the actual things that'll get you kills.
Right.
But
Yeah.
there's a lot of work.
Dude, there is. I mean, there's a lot of work for everyone, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
One of the things that I've been saying for a while, and Craig has started to say as well, and I think a bunch of some other people, but like for the most part, I think we're the two most vocal, is that like everyone sucks right now, right? Like Brett and Craig and Daniel and Mickey are all bad fighters. Because if you go look at like UFC, you look at UFC at the beginning, right? Like when it first starts. Right. And then watch like 10 years later. Every single one of those first fighters would be fucking smoked.
Yeah.
And then like look at the early Ultimate Fighter guys compared to like the people now. And like the people now, like Stylebender doesn't have like any wrestling and is probably a better jiu-jitsu guy than a bunch of the dudes in that first Ultimate Fighter, and would probably not get taken down by a single wrestler from that group, right? Like just the level is insanely above what it was then. And when we first started, that 2012, the first 29 that went over, they weren't even as good as those first people at that first UFC. So right. Like, so where we are now is we're not even at the first Ultimate Fighter. We're not even there yet.
No, we're like early Pride right now, right?
Yeah. Exactly. We're at that point where dudes from professional wrestling were coming in, some of whom had actual legitimate wrestling backgrounds, and some of them were just fucking stunt athletes and like didn't have any clue what they were doing.
Right. Who's going to be our Gracie family, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Either coming out of Dallas. That's all I know.
Absolutely coming out of Dallas. I think
it's not quite incestuous enough there to like really be truly a family, but it's close. Right? There's a lot of interdating. You know, they're not quite as poly as some of the other areas, like Craig's area and us in the fucking Northeast. But yeah,
I'll just throw it out there. Y'all are a meme with all the Midwest teams. It is brought up multiple times a week at minimum between different people.
What part of the meme? What part of us?
Yeah, what's happening?
Like the just like how tight knit everybody is.
Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. I mean,
like, there's how many teams in New England?
Oh, I don't know.
Right. Exactly, right?
Well, I mean, like the thing is, like there were, because of the way chapters worked in ACL, is we spun up a bunch of teams, but then like they were all just the Knights Hall, right? Like because we were trying to have different teams so that we could fight each other as teams rather than just be one club. And then, but yeah, I don't know. We got for like club areas though. There's like only 4. There's the Knights Hall. No, there's 5, 6. There might be 6. I don't know. 6 clubs in New England, I think.
It just feels like every day I log in to Facebook and I'm scrolling through and it's just like, oh, there's a team I've never heard of. Where are they out of? Oh, New England. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
it's either that or Texas. Like, oh, yes. I've never heard of this team before. Where are they out of? Oh, Texas.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize that the Houston group is like 3 or 4 different groups. Right? Like I thought they were all SJK, but like nope. There's Houston is like 3 clubs. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's part of it, right? Because like Dallas is Dallas, but then there's 2 teams in Dallas, and then but now Houston has like 3 teams, and
it's wild. The sport's definitely getting bigger.
Yeah, it is.
So-
It's like I said, I used to know every person in the sport personally.
So you feel like right now the sport hasn't quite hit its golden age yet?
I mean, depending on what you call golden age. But,
Yeah.
But in terms of like peak fighting, we're nowhere close.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is like armor. We haven't really figured out the best equipment loadout. We're starting to, right? Like it's finally, but like if you go look at really early video, like if you can find it pre 2010, it's hard to find. Yuri Medieval, I think, on YouTube has some. There's a couple other places, but like there are dudes wearing chainmail, right?
Oh,
and if you look at the early like 2000, still in 2012 and 2013, there's a dude who had a bever that like opened up, and it's just his face, and he would close it like this to like stop from getting fucking hit. And like, there's all sorts of but like we finally come down to basically like, here's the basic brig design. There's a couple of other designs that are okay, but really you want a brig, you don't really want a Globos, and you want it to be TI, and you want it to be plates that are about this big. And you want a buckler or a punch shield, but you don't want too big of a punch shield, whatever it is. You want it to be kind of a narrow profile. And it seems like it's going to be a hand axe, not falchion. So we're getting closer to like the optimal equipment loadout, but like we still haven't really narrowed it down. And like the move from falchion to hand axe is new and kind of changed stuff. And like also no one, like the top level guys, almost no one at the top level uses gambesons anymore. It's all modern padding underneath. Right.
You wear a gi with like an Under Armour.
Or something. Yeah, something like that. Or like you just put the padding directly into the TI. So and like almost everyone at the top level is using a wolf rip, right? So like we've mostly narrowed in on it, but like that's what we thought maybe 2 or 3 years ago too, when like it was almost always. Maybe 4 years ago now. I don't know. But everyone was nasals instead of wolf ribs. And like you had TI pieces, but the whole body wasn't TI. And it was falchion. And it was, back then it was 5 men across, everyone falchion and punch shield. No one used a buckler. And no one ran, and they'd gotten rid of the one of doing 4 punch shields and one guy with a halberd. But then old friends brought the halberd back. They ran 3 dudes with fucking halberds. And so like now teams are back to going like, all right, so maybe one dude with a short halberd, like a 4 or 5 footer. So like we're still seeing a pretty decent evolution in the equipment game. And I think until that gets to be pretty steady for like a couple years, we won't really get to a technique. Like we won't really hit the peak evolution in techniques, because like techniques change based on equipment, right? Like your loadout changes the type of things you can do, and then also the armor you're wearing changes the spots I can hit you at that will drop you, and the spots I can hit you at that will cause a reaction, and like what type of reactions I'm looking for, and like what, depending on how top heavy you are, that might change what throws I go for. What grips I can grab. They're also changing the rules on like whether you can grab armor or not now. So they might be changing the rules. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
There's a discussion about changing the rules.
Yes.
So wolf ribs are for quitters that need to breathe.
Banned.
Good.
Yeah, right.
Apparently I'm a quitter. Who's Ingleshade? Who's calling me out like this?
Calling out my cat too. Come on, dude.
Jesus.
Pro fight.
He's going hard. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, are Are we talking? Are we really going into who's got better cardio right now? Because like, we can do it. We can do it.
It ain't fucking me.
That's why I'm getting the wolf room.
But like, I don't think we're anywhere near
A golden age.
No, the game changes too much every year to really even get to the point where like what happened in MMA is they got to a point where the game is pretty standard and people coming up were like, all right, you need this much jiu-jitsu, this much kickboxing, this much wrestling, go. And like,
right, it's solved.
And now it's started to open up again since then, but like it really got to the point where like you went, okay, now here's the basics that you have to get to work to that level. And sort of like, here's the basic strategies and you just, and refine those strategies to be better and better at that. As opposed to like the point where like it was changing every year what was happening. And like, it still does, right? Like the game still evolves in the UFC, but it evolves much slower and much more minor, right? Like one new thing will happen versus our game every year. There's like 2 or 3 new things that are going on. And like, which is less than like 4 or 5 years. Every year there was something new. And it was something new almost regionally, right? Like the Russians were the first to be like, no halberds. And at the same time, we were discovering that short axes are better than halberds and 5s. And so America went all short axes when the Russians went all no axes.
Right. And
now we're kind of meeting in the middle where it's like one semi-short axe. Yeah.
Well, man, we are approaching over an hour and a half live, or 2 hours live, actually.
Yeah.
Good Lord, this has been an awesome chat. But I think we gotta wrap it.
Yeah, man.
At this point. Mostly because I have things I have to do.
And Ringo, if you have any closing comments or anything you want to say to the chat or the community of Boohurt, just
I have a stream, Twitch, Trash Night Ringo. I have a website, trashnightringo.com. I have some articles on there. Most of them are very outdated. So like, if you want to know what the game was like 5 years ago, go read those.
His excellent news write-ups.
Yeah, I've been trying to do news of the Boohurt right now. That's sort of the thing I'm sort of doing at the moment. And then, yeah, really the big thing I'm pushing right now is the stream, but also AMCF. We're trying to really like grow and become an org that serves the community. Like our job is really not to be an org that makes money. Our job is not to be an org that like that makes a league. It's just to do what the community wants and what serves the community. So if you have thoughts on that, let us know. Please, you don't have to be a member. You don't have to pay. But if you are a member or you want to, become a member, you can do that. And then now vote for we're currently having elections for the next board member. So if you want to come, please that. But like, please be involved with us so that we can better help you and better serve you. Because right now it's kind of us just throwing out ideas on what we think we want.
Mm-hmm.
But the more conversation we can have with fighters and fans, the better that we can serve what they want, instead of like me up there creating, Ringo's paradise and Cyrus being like, this is exactly what the Knights of Wakanda want. So this is what we're getting, right? Like, come talk to us. So yeah, those are my shout outs,
Heck yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. And hope to have you back some point. For everybody that tuned in, thanks for tuning in and listening to us chat. We will not be here next Tuesday because it is the 4th of July, but we will be back on Wednesday. So we'll be here Wednesday the 5th with Josh Kearney. So tune in for that one. That'll be a good one. All right.
That dude has a lot of hot takes.
And thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for
register for War of the North 10v10s.
Yeah, do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.